and welcome to The Extra Mile. I'm Linda Boudreau. Our guest today is Christy Leichty. She is the program coordinator for Cite des Arts, and I'm assuming many people know what Cite is, but not everyone. So welcome, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And we have to say you came kind of at the last minute for our very first production at the new AOC studio, so it's kind of a big day for us, a lot of changes. So
it's a privilege for me.
It's an inaugural voyage, it really is. So thank you so much. So Cite des Arts, what exactly is it?
We are a grassroots community arts center in downtown Lafayette, and we cover all the arts. We have a dance studio, we have a gallery for fine arts, we have music lessons and acting classes, we have 2 theater spaces that we use for plays and for film. So we're touching on all of the big genres of the arts.
And you're perfectly located downtown because the arts are really kind of finding, I think, a center in downtown Lafayette. Is that accurate, or is that just my sense of things?
That's how I feel about it, especially with the new Acadiana Center for the Arts Theater. They're the big center. I'm the little grassroots center. I like to say I'm the little sister down the street. So yeah, I think that with Festival International being centered downtown, plus all the good beautiful restaurants that are springing up everywhere.
The galleries that are opening up.
The galleries. It's definitely a wonderful arts neighborhood, I guess.
It really is. So what's the story on Cite? What's the history of it?
Cite was started 10 years ago. Well, it'll be 10 years, I think, next summer, by Dr. Maureen Brennan. And it is a nonprofit organization run by a board. And we've existed for about 10 years. So it's been a really wonderful facility that folks can rent if they want to teach classes in the fine arts, or if they have a production that they would like to produce. So for example, we have had 7 original play productions this year by local producers, and 4 of them were musicals.
Wow, see what you started?
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of new work, I think, for a town this size, and it speaks to the talent and the depth of the community here in Lafayette.
I know several years ago, one of our employees wrote a play, and we produced, or they performed it at Cite, and we were working with a lot of foster kids and at-risk youth, and they came and they saw the play, and it was a wonderful experience for them. The facility is so accommodating.
It really is. We have our regular auditorium holds 100 seats, and we've had, especially recently also, the filmmakers, the local filmmakers, kids who've moved off to California or New York or other places who've moved back and decided to do an independent documentary or fictional film have done their premieres at Cite des Arts, and it's been wonderful. Also, the UL Film Department, the undergraduate students had a showcase last spring in May. So we're trying to partner up more with also with students who are producing, and it's so satisfying and I think amazing for Acadiana in this area.
It's very exciting. I'm thinking you're going to outgrow your space before long. You've got to bust out your walls.
I've already done that. I'd like to build up. If somebody would like to give me a few $1 million, I'd like to build up rehearsal space and classroom space.
Christy needs money, so send money.
Right. It wouldn't be for me. It would be for Cite des Arts. And that is really what we depend on. We are a nonprofit organization, and so we depend on some grants that we get from Lafayette Consolidated Governments, or from the state and other local granting agencies. But regular people give us money because they see the value in what we do for children and adults in the community, and they make donations.
Because that is really the lifeblood of an arts nonprofit. You know,
it really is.
The community owns it, the community supports it.
Yes, and the things that make this place special in Louisiana is the amount of artists, musicians, dancers, actors that live here. There's quite a number.
It's pretty impressive. Do we have, around the state, do you know of other facilities like Cite, or is this unique, do you think, to Acadiana?
I'll tell you, I've lived in several different states. I'm originally from the Midwest, and as far as I've ever known, this is the only facility like this.
That's the only one I know of.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in San Francisco, and even if I could have at the time written a play, which I did it here with a friend, if I had wanted to produce it somewhere, it would have been very cost prohibitive. And then I'm not sure I could convince somebody with a theater space to rent me rehearsal time or let me produce it there. Whereas I wrote a musical with my friend Joanna Devine called The Dream of the Marionettes. I came to Cheryl Castile, who was the program director at the time at Cite, and I said, I'd like to have a couple of weekends in the fall if you have any available for me to produce this play. And she said, sure, I'll give you 3. And that play was very successful at the time, and then we ended up taking it to the Fringe Festival in New York City. So that was an opportunity that I could have never paid for anywhere else.
And it was a huge it was a boon to Lafayette. I mean, once y'all got to New York, everybody knew about us. It was wonderful.
It was good advertising for the state
Yeah.
when we really needed some.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to say that I just directed another musical called In His Grace.
Oh, you directed that?
I did.
All right.
By local playwright Jane Bilodeau and her friend John Richard. And they have just applied for the New York City Musical Theater Festival. And I'm really hoping they get in, because this is another Louisiana story about 3 cousins from Faraday, Louisiana, and their fame and fortune and life story.
And I think we may know who they may be.
I think a lot of people out
We
there
may
probably
well
know who they are. And the music is wonderful. It's jazz, it's blues, it's gospel, and rock and roll and country.
So if we didn't see it the first time around, will we have an opportunity to see it later?
I'm really hoping so.
Okay.
If they get into that festival, they'll need to do some fundraising.
Okay.
And the best way to fundraise with a show like that is to do it again.
Yeah.
And sell tickets and get the word out. So you might be hearing about that one in the future.
I'll keep my ears out. So tell me what kind of special events you might have going on within the next few months or so.
Yes, we have a really special festival coming up in December. It will be December the 7th through the 11th, so right at the beginning of the month. And we're calling it the Hub City Theater Festival. And some folks might already know that we have done this in the past. We did it a couple of years in a row and then took a couple of years off, but we want to bring it back because it's a new play festival for playwrights, but also we've expanded it to include storytelling and also spoken word events, so poetry. So for all of the writers out there, and I know there's quite a few, people who have plays or one-act plays or short scenes that are on their shelf that they've not known what to do with, I'm really hoping they call me.
Okay.
And that we can try to get this in our festival this year. Or if you just like to see plays or hear them, you know, in Shakespeare's day, they didn't say, let's go see a play. They said, let's go hear a play, because it was all about the writing. I'm really hoping that people come out of the woodwork and they want to produce their small short works or long works at the new Hub City Theater Festival. We will be having performances not only at Cite, but also we'll have some street theater, we hope, at the Art Walk downtown, which is December the 10th, I believe.
Oh, so it's right around the corner, Christy.
Yes, it's coming up, but we can do it.
Okay.
And at ACA, the Acadiana Center for the Arts, with a brand new theater. We'll also have some performances over there.
Okay, so is it too late for people to get in?
I don't think so. If you're an actor, or director, or writer, and you would like to be a part of this, please give me a call at my office, which is 337-291-1122. And I'll figure out how we can work you in.
Okay.
And then this will be an annual thing, and it won't just be for writers for Acadiana. Eventually we'll expand it to include the state and the country and the world. Okay. We'd like this to be like the Edinburgh Festival in Scotland every year, which is the Fringe Festival there. But only it'll be in Louisiana, and it'll bring people from around the world, just like Festival International, but it'll be for the more like stage arts, and not just bands.
Right, which is it's a very exciting idea.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
You had mentioned before we started taping today that part of what you're doing with this particular festival is storytelling and linking communities.
Yes, ma'am.
How does that work?
Well, Maureen and I, Dr. Maureen Brennan and I, and my husband Jim Phillips went to a storytelling convention in Colquitt, Georgia recently. And we realized how important stories are to connect a community, both to keep the history alive and the culture alive and vital. And for Colquitt is a very small town in southwest Georgia that was really dying off because all of the young people were leaving. And they wanted something to revitalize their economy and keep their town going. They hooked up with a playwright who said, you have stories. So you have a great resource here. So let's develop some of these stories into community performance, and folks will want to see them and hear them. And that's true, and that's what's happened for them. They now have $1 million local economy built around storytelling. And so we would like to do the same thing for Lafayette. in neighborhoods. There are neighborhoods in Lafayette that have long stories and long history and tradition. So we would like to get a storytelling thing going and connect it to the Hub City Theater Festival. So if there are storytellers out there who've either written their stories down or they just like to perform stories, they could also be a big part of the Hub City Theater Festival. And possibly we could use these stories in programs that we can do in schools to get kids thinking about storytelling, what are their stories, what are their family stories, and writing. And then how does that's how movies are made and plays are made. And so these are things that we've planted the kernel, and now the plant is going to
water it a
grow.
little bit.
Yes.
But I mean, I said before we started today, I think storytelling is so fundamental
Absolutely.
to a community, to people's identity, and it's fun.
It
and
is fun.
Anybody can tell a story.
Yes.
Because everybody's got one.
Absolutely.
And so, is there room in this for everybody's story, every man and every woman's story?
I believe there is room for everyone's story. Even if you're a kid and you have stories, that's great. And if you're like me, not only do you like to tell stories, I love to listen to stories.
I love storytelling. I love to hear them. Yes.
It's fascinating, people's stories and the things that they know, especially the older members of a community, know a whole lot that you'll never hear if you don't sit down and listen to them talk or ask them the right questions. So that's my goal, is we've got to collect Lafayette and Acadiana's stories and tell them. And whether that's going to turn into a play down the road or just a community performance. And you don't have to be an actor to be in community performance.
I think people think you do.
You do not, and actually it's really fun. The conference that I went to, we would sit around and listen to folks tell stories and then tell them back to them and then get up and act them out. It was the simplest thing. I didn't have to memorize lines. I didn't have to write anything down. It was all up here, and that's a lot of fun. And it really bonds people, I think.
I think it must be a great idea for a workshop, too, to bring groups together, especially divergent groups where they're telling their stories and everybody gets to share that within the experience of the story.
Indeed,
it's a great idea.
Indeed, and we
It's a great idea.
We do these workshops now at Cite. In fact, Jim, my husband, who also volunteers at Cite, has been doing storytelling workshops with teachers. So and we put these on our calendar and we advertise them on our website. But if there's a teacher out there or teachers in a school district who would like to learn these techniques, they should give me a call once again at my office. You know, the classes that happen at Cite, I don't want that to get lost. We do workshops and classes often. We have now tango classes, Irish step dancing. There's music lessons in piano, guitar, mandolin, and violin, and acting classes for adults and children, and improvisation. So we also have an open mic spoken word poetry night once a month. We call it Words and Words, and it is hosted by Christina Marshall, who is the daughter of Ed Marshall, and a lot of people know who Ed Marshall was in the 1980s. He was working for Channel 10, I believe. Is that right? One of the two TV stations. He was a reporter.
Yeah.
So Christina lives in Lafayette, and she is really into writing and poetry, and she hosts Words and Words once a month. It's a real treat to hear her read her own poetry.
And then you have film night?
We have independent film night. It's a free film night.
Free movies.
Free movies. You can walk right in. You have to buy the popcorn, but it's only $2.
So that's a deal.
That's a deal. Crystal Place, who moved here from Connecticut, she fell in. This is a great story. This is another great story. She was traveling across the country to Los Angeles because she works as a producer with independent film. And she stopped in Lafayette to visit her friend and fell in love. And she never left. So here she is, and she loves film, and she works on film, and that's her job. But she really wanted a vehicle for free independent film for people. So she has connected up with a sponsor. It's Black Sheep Couriers, and they pay for the rights for certain films that she likes to show, and we do that twice a month.
And what night are we?
It's Wednesday nights. And it's not always the same Wednesday night, because depending on what play production is opening up in the theater, we might need the theater for final dress rehearsal night. But it's at least twice a month, and that would be listed on my calendar.
And you do have a calendar that's on your website, so if people want to know what's going on, they can check that out, right?
They can certainly, or I'm
or they can and they can Facebook you too, because you're my Facebook friend.
Yes, I'm on Facebook. So www.citedesart.org to find out about all the different things. We have public school kids who do their performances there, both in music and theater and art. And the Acadiana School of the Arts sometimes has their recitals there. And also the Front Room, which is another music school in Scott, they do their recitals there. So it really is, I try to be the arts facility that anybody could have.
That's why it's a grassroots, community-based arts facility.
Exactly.
You know, because really anybody can use it. And nonprofits, you make it available to nonprofits.
I make it available for fundraising events for nonprofits. We're having one on Thursday night for a service company, NHS, which they help the homeless people. So I try to also help these other grassroots organizations which really serve the community. This is important. We got to stick together in these hard economic times.
Right. And I'm going to just plug the Extra Mile Talent Show, which is going to
That's
be
right.
at Cite November the 20th. So, you know, it's kind of an opportunity for local talent to perform and,
Exactly.
you know, showcase what they can do.
That's right. If you play piano, guitar, you sing, you dance, you want to do some modern dance, anything.
Whatever.
If you would like to read your poetry, and man, are there some talented poets in this region. I heard two a couple of weeks ago that just blew my socks off. Just totally blew my socks off. We're so lucky to live here.
We really are. We really are.
You don't have to go to New Orleans for art. I mean, New Orleans is great. You don't have to go to Houston. You don't have to go to Dallas. Lafayette is rich, believe me. I've lived in different states. I lived in the Bay Area, which is rich, but it's not like Lafayette.
What makes it different here?
I just think the depth of what's going on and the incredible tapestry of what's available. For example, at Cite, just a couple of weeks ago, we had Butoh dancing, Japanese traditional Butoh dancing. You know, have they had that in New Orleans in the last month? I probably not. So that's really exciting. And then we've got all the environmentalists that now live here, and they're promoting the Whole Foods, local foods movement.
Right.
We have people who build things and make things. It's fascinating. I feel like it's a real treat to live here.
Well, we're just really glad you decided to come, too.
Oh, I love it.
Now, if somebody wants to use Cite, say an organization or a group wants to use it, say to do a play or whatever, how do they even go about it?
I think the best thing is to phone me up, 291-1122, and come to my office, make an appointment. Let's get together, let's look at my calendar and see what's going on. And if I can't work you in exactly when you'd like to be worked in, what I do is I keep kind of a waiting list going. That way, if, for example, you would like to do a play in March, but March is booked, if, for example, somebody calls me in January and says, you know, I booked the theater for a play in March, but I can't do it, then I can call you and try to work you in as soon as possible. I try to work with people to help realize their dreams. Some people are afraid to put up a new piece in the main theater, but I have a second stage, which is a much smaller space that still has lights and sound. So if you would like to, say, do a performance for 30 people instead of 100, or you're not sure how many tickets you're going to sell, then you can look at the second stage space. And we have singer-songwriters who maybe it's just one guy and his guitar. They also, or they want to do a CD release party. We do those at Cite. It's a really wonderful, warm place. We have a little cafe that we can open up for evenings. That makes it a little warmer, a little special. If you'd like to rent the cafe to do your stand-up comedian act, I'm open.
So the space is really versatile and can be used in lots of different ways.
Yes.
And I guess the thing I'm thinking, I've been to several plays at Cite and other events, and everything I've been to has been original work.
Yes.
First time performance. Is that pretty much what you're featuring there? It's not like you're featuring the work of, you know, writers from, you know, established plays or whatever?
Well, it really depends, because I don't program the specific event necessarily. People come to me and they say, I've got this play I'd like to do.
Okay, and they can it can be any play they want to do.
Absolutely. In fact, Lauren Farmer is going to direct a play that just came off Broadway, you know, in the last month or two. It's a David Mamet play called Race. And so that we're going to do the first 2 weekends of February. So that's a play by a well-established American playwright who is writing vital work now. And somehow we got permission to do this play.
Okay.
And I think that's exciting for Lafayette. This is a cutting-edge piece of work. It wasn't done 10 years ago on Broadway. It was just done. So if you didn't get to New York to see Race, last summer, you'll get to see it in February at Cite des Arts.
But now the actors and actresses in Race here are local
They're
people?
local, and the director will be local, the stage manager will be local, the set designer will be local, and that's exciting. So yeah, it can be any play, as long as it's, appropriate
Right.
for our audiences, which most of them are. Some of them are more adult in content, and that's okay. We warn everyone, this is not for children.
I was going to say, so you will advertise if it's going to be a play not for children.
Not for children. We have a new one that's opening on Friday. It's called It's Not What It Seems. It's by a local playwright named Katrina Ozan. It's an adult play. It's contemporary African-American urban life play. That's the way I describe it. But it's not a kid's play. It's really adult. So we put warnings on our flyers if that's the case. Now, I also love to do children's theater
I was
there.
going to say, but you do a lot of work with children there.
We do. So we have kids' musicals and plays as well. So it's great. If for somebody who loves the arts and wants a variety, hey, we've got it going on.
So people want to support Cite. I mean,
Yes.
you certainly accept contributions and donations.
We do, anytime. If somebody has an idea that they'd like to volunteer for one of our fundraisers, we have a golf outing that we do every spring, and it's going to be March 1st next year. If somebody has time and they'd like to volunteer to help get sponsors or whatever, they're perfectly welcome to do that, and I would be so happy.
Because you could
for
use
the help,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I would love that. There was something else I was going to mention.
And
for
then when there are
January.
events, I mean, do people volunteer like to take tickets and
Yes.
take the land? So there
Work in the snack bar?
Yeah, so there are opportunities to volunteer if you want to.
Absolutely. Every weekend I have a show, and if someone would like to come in and take the tickets or work the box office or the snack bar, I would be very, very welcoming towards them.
Okay. So do you have to get trained to do that? Because I mean, I've been, it always looked like fun to me.
Oh, it's not hard.
You know?
I can train you in 10 minutes.
Okay, so there's really not a whole lot to
No, and I'm usually there, or my assistant is there,
Okay.
or Maureen is there, or other people who have volunteered often who can help out. And it's really a fun atmosphere to work in.
Yeah, it is. So just kind of to bring it all together, the program is for the most part, or maybe completely locally generated. Is that true?
Yes, it really is. Yeah.
And so if people watching today might have an idea
Yes.
of something that they could do or something that they might like to have a venue to show, that
Yes.
you'd be the go-to person.
I
no?
would. Please call me.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it when people come to see me and they've got an interesting idea. It's such a privilege to do what I do because I meet such interesting people who do really creative things, and that's fabulous. I just love it.
And that's really kind of the direction, one of the directions that Lafayette is moving in anyway. Is that right?
Yes.
You know, we talked about this for, 20-some minutes, but we never did tell anybody where it is.
Oh, we're on Vine Street, just off of Jefferson. So if you know where Dwyer's Cafe is, we're about a half a block from them down Vine Street. And Vine Street is one block just off of Jefferson, between Jefferson and 3rd Street.
And is parking a problem?
Well, no, because there's a parking garage on Vermilion Street, Vermilion and Jefferson, and I've timed it because I walk places. It's about a 5-minute walk from the
Okay.
parking garage, and there's usually a security guard in that parking garage, so you're good.
And really, downtown in the evenings, even if it's an evening event, there's so many people out in downtown Lafayette that
Absolutely.
it's a safe environment for people to go strolling around.
Yes, it is.
and
Yes, it is.
have-
And the plays usually end around 9:30, so it's not real late. And like I said, they have a security guard at that parking garage. But, yeah, there's often people walking around. There's restaurants and things in the area, so
Yeah.
it's not a lonely alleyway.
Yeah, no, it's pretty
No.
easy to get around, but sometimes
Yeah.
you have to look for parking. So
Yes.
in the last minute or so that we have,
Yes.
Christy, what do you want people to know about Cite des Arts?
That it is a place for art, for entertainment, that local entertainment by local artists. And if you're a local artist and you would like to audition for a play or a film, please give me a call. Or if you're a musician and you need a CD release party location, I would love to meet you.
Okay. And it's just a fun place to be. It really is. The atmosphere is wonderful. The people that are there are wonderful. It's just a nice place to go. Christy, I want to thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for
kind of bringing us
having
up to
me.
date with what all you do over there.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you for watching The Extra Mile.